Tim Tollefson, it is great to have you back on the Single Track podcast.
Really good to see you. I think we're both in slightly better environments this time.
I know. I've done a little bit of an upgrade to my podcast studio here, and you're not in a car.
Yeah.
Really quickly, I want to touch on Western States back in June. I'm curious, because I know you like to see the bright side of everything. What were some of the positives from that experience, some of the lessons that you were able to take with you into training for UTMB?
Oh, probably one of the biggest positives that came out of that race was it proved to myself that with surrendering to the welcoming help from other people, I can accomplish hard things. I can keep doing things that maybe mentally and internally I doubt. And I think it was a good reminder of that. It just reinforced that when you let others in and let them be part of your journey, really, you don't know what's possible. And, for me, that was a 21-hour day at States, but we got it done.
Was this year's UTMB always on your radar, or was everything contingent on how deeply you would go to the well at Western States and what transpired there?
It was always contingent on how States played out.
Okay.
I had a single track mind on Western States, and I was signed up for UTMB, and I always knew that it was there, but I did not allow myself to entertain that thought as a contingency plan, or, I didn't have these, visions of grandeur that I was going to, knock both out of the park. I was very focused on Western States. But I actually was kind of hoping States would go super well, and then I could go to UTMB and just enjoy and support other people. But that's not quite where we're at right now.
Well, I have to imagine, again, because things didn't go exactly the way you wanted them to go, on a positive side of that, you didn't necessarily go to the well physically, right? Like a 21-hour day, I'm guessing a lot of hiking was involved. At that point in time, you had said in another podcast you were in the best shape of your life. Do you retain a lot of that for this UTMB training block? Do you feel like you have a lot left mentally and physically to transfer over to this?
Yeah, definitely. And, it's interesting. I didn't run to my potential at States. So it was a much, I didn't burn the physical matches in that sense. I burned equally as many, maybe more mental matches to get that one done.
Okay.
But I feel like that is a regenerative piece of the equation in ultras. And physically, it took a different toll on my body, and while it wasn't my potential on the upper end of performance, I mean, to get that done, it still took a lot of physical toll, just to continue moving forward when things are not going well. And I think anyone that's been in that state can appreciate that, when things are clicking, you're running on the upper end of your limits, and the amount of intense pain or agony you're feeling is very high, but there's a definitive kind of duration path and outcome, when it's going to end. And when it's open-ended, like what happened this year, the mental toll is much greater, where you just don't know when this suffering is going to end. And I think that's harder to cope with. But yeah, physically, I was sitting on a huge bank of fitness. I didn't lose that, but I also just kind of allowed myself to take an ample time or a period of time off. And I wasn't forcing the turnaround into the UTMB build, which last year I did. 2 days after States didn't go well in 2021, I basically started training again, and no surprise, I got injured. So this year I took an ample week off, and then just let myself slowly get back into it. And, I wasn't regimented with kind of my training. Everything's been free flowing, which isn't typical for me. So it's left me maybe not feeling as fit and confident as I have in previous years, but what it has left me with is a healthy body and, a happy mind. And I think that combination is really what you want in a long ultra.
From an excitement standpoint and an inspiration standpoint, where are you at with this race compared to years past, like let's just say 2016, 2019, years like that?
I would say my excitement is lower than some of those years
Okay.
from a competitive standpoint, but my eagerness to get out and close the loop is higher.
Okay.
And Jimmy, our mutual friend, Jimmy Elam, and I did some training in Mammoth just in the last couple of weeks. And one thing we talked about was how, really my first time out at UTMB, I went in with the intention of closing the loop. There's always those secondary goals you have like planted in the back of your head, but really that was the objective. I wanted to finish my first 100-miler. I wanted to close it. And I went in with that as the priority, and I was able to execute on that. I think as success has come, my intentions and priorities have shifted, and sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But I can say confidently that the last 3 outings at UTMB, the last 2 outings, like I should not have been there. In 2018, I just got unlucky. I was poised for a really good run that year, kind of my 3rd in a row. But then 2019 and 2021, I really should not have been on the line. So I'm happy to be going back, like I said, with a healthy body and a mind that's at peace with where I'm at in my career. And I don't feel like I need to prove things to myself or others like I used to.
One thing I've always wanted to ask you, and I'm noticing it more this year, there's this increasing trend of a lot of American elite athletes heading over to Chamonix many weeks or months in advance to train on the course. And granted, you've had a lot of competing obligations being a physical therapist, and now you're a race director. Has that ever been something you've wanted to do or planned to do? Or do you think that you can get everything you need in terms of preparation out in Mammoth?
I've never actually really wanted to go over there for like an entire season. It would be nice to maybe get there a little bit earlier than I have, just to relax and hang out with more people and not feel like rushed in the the build up to the race. But I am a firm believer that you can make most of your training grounds wherever you are, because it's important to feel balanced and stable in your own personal relationships in life. And I think when you're in that state, you're able to perform the way you need to in training and in races. And I find that for me, that place is here in Mammoth. And with Lindsay and my support system and friends locally. And then on top of it, we have some of the best training in the country. So I am benefited there. I think something like UTMB, it's a little more challenging. Let's say if you're in Nebraska or Ohio, but you can still make do. And what I have found, and I think what we proved back in 2016 and 17, is that you don't need to be in Europe to have a success over there. My 2 best years, 2016 and 2017, came from 100% training in Mammoth and the surrounding Eastern Sierra. I got over there a week before the race, had barely seen the course, and just let it rip. And I think that that kind of challenged that notion that you need to be there. And really, if you look at history, the majority of American men that go over early cook themselves in training. You can look back 10 plus years to find examples of that. And I think that it's easy to get caught up because it's such a beautiful place in Chamonix and you want to do everything. And Jimmy and I actually just recently talked about this. Chamonix, it's in the, it's in the Alps and it's a beautiful location, but the town itself is at 3,000 feet. You can climb up very quickly and pack in a ton of vert. And I think it's easy to get carried away, but here in the Sierra, it's much more rugged. It's, you have to work for your miles out here in your vert. And, on paper, this is another thing. In 2017, my best year ever, probably the best race of my career. Yeah. I averaged 18,000 feet of gain per week for 10 weeks leading into UTMB, wow, which is, a far cry from what you might see some of the other men doing. But I always look back on that and remind myself that you need to do what's best for you. Don't get caught up in that comparison game. And I still do. I just have to remind myself, but 18,000 feet, put me in a place where I was competitive with the best in the world. And I've tried to chase more and I've broken myself. And I think it's just about quality over that huge volume.
acknowledging that you are the most successful American male athlete at this race, it's you and David Laney. Do you, and also acknowledging that you have nothing left to prove, do you still believe you can win this race, whether it's this year or in one of these ensuing years? And is that something that you care about from like an outcome standpoint?
I do firmly believe that I can win this race. I really think I was ready in 2018, and life happened, and you just kind of roll with that. But where I'm at in my career now, I no longer need to win that race. And I think that's actually going to allow me to have the success that I've dreamt of at some point in the next couple of years. Early in my career, I was driven out of a lot of anger or fear or insecurity. I mean, you could pick a different emotion on a particular day, and I had success out of that. But I am finding now, as I kind of unpack a lot of the stuff that has driven me, that while that may have been effective, I was never happy in those moments. And moving forward, I want to find a state where I can achieve my best days and be enjoying the process. And I know that is on the horizon. I don't know if it'll be this year. It probably won't, to be honest. But I'm okay with that.
Last question on sort of like a legacy standpoint about this race. Do you ever, given again how much you've accomplished at this race, do you ever feel like from a media standpoint you have still somehow been overlooked?
Yes. I mean, the honest truth. And that was the anger that drove me in 2017. I mean, in my running life, I've always felt that I'm trying to like prove that I belong, that I'm a runner, that I can be here. And I've had moments in different phases, college, post-collegiate, professional trail running, where I feel like I've done something to like earn my spot. And then because I'm still looking for that external validation from others, which is dependent on a condition I can't control, if someone doesn't grant that, it certainly challenges that belief that, okay, maybe I don't belong yet. And I know that in 2017, coming off of my debut 100, finishing third at UTMB, I thought I would be in, the talks of being a contender, but I wasn't. And I know that's driven out of ego, but it also, it did sting. So I ran with a lot of anger in 2017 that I still had to prove people wrong. And again, I got the best day of my career on that, but it lasted for about 24 hours. And I wasn't truly able to enjoy, what I had accomplished, because there's never enough. You can never, do something where you actually have hit that mark, that metric, because, it was kind of driven out of, I think, a place that wasn't like, it was fictional. It wasn't sustainable. So, I have felt slighted, and that's not to cry wolf or anything, but there have been those moments where I think, hey, I feel like I had a little bit of success out here. Maybe can't I have my name in the ring? But that's what also makes sport great. I think that having storylines build it up for the fans. So you need to pit people against one another. So I think that is kind of fun.
Well, I got to say, I've always appreciated how much insight you provide on the inner life of being an elite athlete, and I think it sets a great standard for years to come with other folks that are coming up in the sport. So I know I appreciate it. I think the listeners appreciate it, and I'm super excited to watch at UTMB this year, man. It's going to be fun. Last thing, I want to make sure that we talk about Mammoth Trail Fest, because I guess this is I guess it's the second year that you're a race director, or the first year. So how are you balancing the obligations with that and UTMB at the same time? And also, we should just do some like call to actions, like how can people sign up and stuff like that?
Thanks. It's the first year. We were shut down last year. The pandemic and forest fires were hard. It's a new challenge for me because I don't know a lot, but I'm learning, and it's given me appreciation for everything that goes in behind a big event. greater appreciation for the events I've attended. But I would say compared to, working 40 hours in the clinic, I love the flexibility of this, where the creative work and all of the things that have to be done to, cross the T's and dot the I's, it can be stressful in a different way. But it has allowed me, to get probably higher quality training because I can work around this schedule versus, a patient's going to be there at 8 a.m. You can't show up at 8:30. You can't show up at 8:05. Like that's not professional or prudent. So I have appreciated kind of that flexibility in this, even if it does bring some mental stress in, or distress. And yeah, I'd say I'm really excited for it. What you were saying earlier, something about legacy of the UTMB race, I think about, I don't think I've ever been, I don't think I ever was positioned to be like on the Mount Rushmore of, say, ultra running. But what I think I do have to offer is, some appreciation and understanding on what it takes to get to certain levels. And I'd love to continue to share that with the future generation. And I think something like Mammoth Trail Fest is a launching pad for that we can really start to build and share and congregate as a community and have something really special that people can come, learn, grow, and take it into their own communities. And so I really hope to help continue to nurture that and pass along things that I've learned in my career and let others that have even more experience share their experiences. So that's what really excites me the most, is just help create this platform to help nurture our community the way that we all want to keep learning.
Cool. And of course, we will link to everything in the show notes. But if listeners want more information about the race, where can they go find it?
Well, mammothtrailfest.com is our webpage, and go check out everything that we have there, all of the information on the races, the festival, the multi-night talks and movies that we're going to be putting on. And yeah, so you can gather all the information there, and also sign up through Ultra Sign Up. And hopefully we see some people out there. We have pretty good turnout so far, but I think we could get a couple hundred more people. And yeah, we're excited to share. We just had a good media meeting with our media team of Billy Yang, Mario Frioli, Hillary, Andy Cochran, Ryan Thrower. So yeah, really excited about this. I think there's going to be something for everybody.